Hi, this is Yifei with Audio Plugin Deals, and today we'll be checking out Sample Logic's Expeditions. Now before we dive right in, be sure to click that subscribe button on our YouTube channel in order to stay up to date with our latest walkthroughs and tutorials. Expeditions is a rhythmic sequencing and effects engine featuring a large collection of cinematic and world loops running on the full version of Kontakt. It's highly portable at about 1.5 gigabytes, but features over 965 loops arranged in over 300 multi-presets. This here is the main interface, and the top here is when you can select the multi-core instruments. Each multi-core instrument is made up of 4 loop cores which you can play individually or together at once, where the yellow button deactivates or activates each loop. And due to the variety of loops available, it's suitable for many styles of music. Each loop core is made up of an individual loop source, as well as effects presets which have been applied. You can view the effects being applied by clicking on the effects button, where you can turn steps on and off, transpose, and add a variety of processing such as reverb to each individual step. Multi-core instruments can be easily selected using a tagging system. For example, let's try and find something that is cinematic and also Middle Eastern. So the tagging system makes it quite easy to find the exact sound you're looking for. You can find sounds by region as well as the type of instrument. And once you've found the exact sound you're looking for, you can just press the heart icon next to the name of the sound, which automatically adds it to your favorites for you to access easier later on. At the top left, there's also a master effects section where you can control each individual track volume. You can control the channel panning, as well as any overall effects you wish to apply to the whole instrument. You can click on each single effect to open up further options for tweaking. So the keyboard for Expeditions is broken into 2 parts. The left part here controls the various pages of presets that you can create for a single multi. You can create up to 4 pages. And the right part here is where you trigger the loops. You can trigger individual ones, or you can press one key to trigger all of them together. I guess the individual ones you'll have a bit more flexibility. For example, if you want to isolate just the bass part of the multi with just the percussion. You can also change the loop cores by clicking on its name and using a similar tagging system to find the loop that you want. Now, assuming you want to change the source of the loop, but keep the various effects which have been applied, the presets, for example, this one already has saturation and compression already applied. You can change the loop directly by clicking on its name, and it uses a similar tagging system. As you can see, the effects preset has not changed, but the audio file has. At the top right of the interface is also a randomizer button. You can click the arrow next to the button to select the specific parameters which you would like to randomize. For example, things like transpose, volume, and stutter. For each loop core, you can also click on the R button. This will arm it for randomization, which means that it will be affected by the randomizer when you press the button. And this way you can achieve some pretty wacky results. So the 3rd and 4th loop cores haven't been armed for randomization, so therefore they're not affected. Now, in order to show how we can tweak the loops, let's firstly hear a demo that's been made with the library. So the demo was created almost entirely using expeditions, with the exception of a swell and impact instrument I added to round off the edges of the loops to help with transition. So let's start by creating preset number 4, which is probably the quickest one. We just select one of the pre-assembled multi-core instruments here, which sounds pretty good. So let's transpose this up to D minor, because we want our piece to be in D minor. Okay, so this second instrument, we don't quite like the sound of that, so we are going to find a more gritty sounding instrument. So this gritty sounds much better. We're just going to transpose it now so it's the same key as the first loop core. We're also going to add some pan, so it pans left and right at each step. So playing it together, it sounds pretty good. So now we're going to work backwards and look at preset number 3, just because we can. So here I've already loaded in 4 different loop cores into this instance of expeditions. So this last one doesn't sound quite right. So we're going to reduce the steps down to 4, and each wave file, each loop source is broken into 16 segments. So for this one, we're just going to be using segments 3 and 4. And we're also going to be transposing it to be the same as the other keys. Playing it together, it sounds about right now. We're just going to go into the master settings and we're going to tweak the volume a little bit. So now we're working backwards again to look at preset number 2. So we started off with one of the multi-core presets, Somalian Pirates, and we're going to just change 2 of the loop cores. So this one here is quite different to the other ones. It plays backwards, as you can see. We're going to transpose it to D minor, the same as the other ones. And for the last instrument, we'll change it to a grungy guitar. So coming into the master effects rack, we're going to add a phaser. Okay, so that sounded pretty good. And last but not least, we're going to be looking at preset number 1. So with 3 of these loop cores, we just loaded in the actual loop source files themselves. So we wanted some strings, a brass, a synth, and a percussion. So first we're just going to be picking our strings. So we wanted just part 13 to be playing for 8 steps, but you can of course choose any part that you want from the loop to play at any step. So we're just going to open our settings now, and for the volume we drew a little curve so that it will fade in and then out slightly to smooth the transition. We're also just going to transpose it, but as you can see we've already done that to the right key. So next, for the brass instrument, we also want just part 1 of this loop to be playing for 8 steps, but we want to skip steps 3, 7 and 8. By clicking on these squares you can select which of the steps that you actually want to be playing in the sequence. So for the third loop core, we're going to be adjusting the dynamic effects. If you press the effects button to the left, you're able to control the dynamic effects that are applied to each of these 8 steps. So here we're just going to use a preset setting just to experiment. So in this case, we're just going to switch it back to the dynamic effect preset that it was on. It sounded slightly better. So for this fourth loop core, we're going to be adjusting the step count just to experiment. As you can see that if you change it to 2 steps, it sounds completely different to the 8 steps that it was originally on. Again, we're going to keep it to 8 steps this time, just for a bit more variety. Opening the master's effect rack, we can see that we've already panned the strings to the left and the brass to the right. We've also added some EQ filters here. There's a list of presets you can choose from. And by turning this knob, you'll control the extent which the EQ filter is applied. This top knob here adds overdrive and distortion to your sound if you want to achieve that specific effect. So going back to the main page, you'll see that we have created 4 pages of presets, which are A, B, C and D, played by the left hand here. For each page, we changed the chord that's being played by transposing by a different amount. This is useful, say, if you wanted to change chords, if your song has chord changes without having to load more instances of expeditions. You can see that the transpose amount here is different for each one. So the loops created using expeditions sound amazing on their own, however they can just as easily be paired with a melody line using any of your existing sample libraries. So being a keyboardist, I will demonstrate this by playing an orchestral multi-preset created using the Sonoscore Orchestra. So I'm going to be playing this instrument together with the demo created using expeditions earlier. Thank you very much for watching this video, and hope you've learned quite a bit about the Expedition sample library and the various functions that it has. So be sure to check the description below as well for a direct link to get Expeditions on deep discount using your rewards money. And for other great value sample libraries, be sure to check out audiopluggindeals.com.